The Springfield Trapdoor is a natural-born military rifle, meeting the highest military expectations of the early 1870s. It's a small-caliber rifle, it's a breech-loading rifle, and it fires a self-contained metallic cartridge, the 4570 cartridge, capable of hitting an enemy at extreme long ranges as well. Among the most known 1873 and 1884 models, there are several less-known models, like the most elegant of all, the Officer model. Let's learn the history of this rifle, and let's shoot it, of course, with some kind of magic touch from Capandball. But before we carry on, let me thank you for your support. Your donation through Patreon, or buying our authentic American Civil War cartridge boxes, or percussion revolver cartridge formers, or US Arsenal Stadias, or our rubber printing plates for Arsenal bundles, or our powder measure sets, or our flintlock tools, they all help to keep the quality of our channel high. Without you, this would be much more difficult. The trapdoor rifle I will be using in this film is an original rifle, but not exactly an officer model. It is a sporterized version of the model 1884 rifle, modified to the style of the officer trapdoor. It's a light and very comfortable hunting arm, perfect for all European big game, even with cartridges charged with black powder. The length of the barrel is 24 inches, and the rifle is equipped with the model 1873 sights and the long-range leather sight as well. A good proof of the military involvement are the beautiful proof marks on the metal parts and on the wooden stock. The cost of the original officer's models are way beyond the level most of us can afford, but the sporterized versions are on the market for fair prices, well worth the money if the bore is in good condition. The action is simple and strong, probably not as strong as the Sharp's high-wall or rolling block rifles, but will handle black powder pressures for sure. Reloading the 4570 black powder cartridge is easy and fun. You can access hundreds of types of bullet designs, so you can turn your rifle into a tech driver with a little load development. The officer model is actually the successor of the sporterized military rifles ordered by individual officers of the army from the Springfield Armory. They were all manufactured, rather modified in the Springfield Armory. So they were made on individual order with individual specifications, meaning that the shape of the stock, the length of the barrel, the trigger system, the sight, the furniture, they could all vary a lot. The earliest mention of these sporterized rifles, Springfield Trapdoor rifles, dates back to 1870, when Sam W. Porter, master machinist of the Arsenal, noted that such modification did cost $56.5 for the army, including the tools, of course, for the rifle. This rifle, the first mentioned rifle, was a 20H barrel length model 1868 Springfield Trapdoor, and it had a 50-70 caliber. Based on this note, we can understand that the first rifles were actually modified military rifles. The barrel was cut down, the stock was thinned at the grip, the butt plate was reshaped to have a crescent form, and also a little compartment was added to the butt plate that accepted a 4-section joint steel ramrod. The stock was of course shortened to have a half stock, and the tip of this half stock at the forend received a German silver cup. The sights could be a buckhorn for hunting, or it could be also a long-range sight installed to the grip that could be elevated up to 1,200 yards. These lighter rifles were not only sporting rifles, but they actually saw action against the Native Americans. Lieutenant General of the 7th Cavalry, George Armstrong Custer, mentioned an engagement in 1873 when his best shot of the regiment, Private Tuttle, was firing his sporterized Springfield Trapdoor to the other side of the river, hitting enemy with deadly accuracy. According to archival records, this was a 45 caliber rifle with light stock, with long-range sights or fine sights, and with hair trigger or set trigger system. There is one famous image about George Armstrong Custer in buckskin. He is holding a sporterized Springfield Trapdoor rifle. Now let's get a closer look. The barrel seems to be quite long, probably 26-28 inches. It's equipped with a German silver front sight blade and an 1873 type rear sight. The trigger is a double set trigger system, and the rifle is equipped with a semi-pistol grip as part of the trigger guard. There seems to be no cleaning rod channel in the forend, and it is closed with a German silver nose cap. There are not too many orders that were actually shipped. Up to 1875, only 26 pieces were delivered to the customers. They were mainly made in the Springfield Arsenal, but some of them were made at home by the workers. Let's do some shooting now, but in the most authentic way. The cartridges that I'm going to use today are not just simply loaded with black powder, but the bullets are cast and the cases are reloaded with an original ideal tool, replicating the ballistics of the 45-70-500 cartridge that entered service in 1884. Let's start the game with shooting the rifle to 50 meters from a bench rest. And that is a nice decent 50-meter group, ladies and gentlemen, with 4 shots in the size of the 10 ring, and we have a flyer here, but that was cap and ball. It was my fault. I was just not placing the butt of the rifle properly in my shoulder. But what more can I say? This rifle is okay for hunting with the normal sight setting. I did not have to change the blade. It is just shooting where it has to. So at 50 meters, this rifle is excellent for hunting with cartridge. I love it. Let's check the 100 meter. So let's talk about now the officer model. So these individual requests frequently arrived to the arsenal, and they are never good for production because they had to be actually handled individually. So in 1875, Brigadier General Stephen Vincent Bennett, Chief of Ordnance, fed up with fulfilling such orders and decided to make a standardized version for the civilian use as well. And this was the birth of the officer model. There were actually 3 sub-variations during its manufacturing period. One without the pistol grip, like the excellent Pedersen Repro in the picture, one with detachable pistol grip, and one with integral pistol grip. All had 26-inch barrels, and all were equipped with long-range leather sights. Mainly, these rifles were intended for the officers of the army, but in some cases, when somebody had good political connections, it was also delivered to civilians as well. The first officer model rifle was sold to Captain Fairley on 31 August 1875 for the sum of $36. I wish I could buy a rifle like this for $36 now. These rifles did not have a pistol grip. In the first year of production, they were called the Officer Sporting Rifle, but in 1876 it was renamed to Officer's Rifle Model 1875. The initial price for the officer's model rifle was $36, but in 1879 it was reduced to 27. The total number produced from these officer rifles could be not more than 500 pieces. 50-meter distance for a trapdoor rifle like this is a piece of cake. So let's try the rifle now to 100 meters.
Let's check it.
And that is 100 meters, ladies and gentlemen. I really have to say that I'm satisfied with this groove. 4 shots are in the size of a 9 ring, well in a good vertical line, which is quite good group. The vertical deviation is only, let's say, 2 centimeters, less than an inch. That is just perfect. We have a 10 here, but probably that's the flyer here. But anyway, it's a really good result from a rifle like this. Let's not forget that we have a nice big aperture on the rear side, and the black is just very tiny at 100 meters through these sides. But whatever we can say, that is good. That is good. It's a hunting rifle, and this group is just perfect for hunting. Being able to reload your cartridges in the field when your rifle is firing a self-contained metallic cartridge is a must. So from the early 70s, many companies, many inventors started to produce reloading implements, like the one you see in my hands, which is the famous Ideal tool, patented in 1884. Let's learn the history of this little tool, and of course, let's run some 4570 cartridges and shoot it from the officer trapdoor. The Ideal tool you see in the film is a rare bird. The 4570 version is seldom found, so I'm really happy that I was lent one for this project. Only the decapping pin is missing from the set, but that can be overcome easily. Let's start with making some fire. The tool itself is in very good condition, and most importantly, the mold is in very good shape. So finally, I'll have an original cast bullet for my rifle. The first hole is for sizing the bullet. The second one is for priming the case. The third one is for seating the bullet and crimping it. And we also have the bullet mold at the end of the pliers. Most of the big gun makers offered reloading tools for their rifles, but it was John Harwood Barlow who industrialized their production and created the reloading business that we all live today. Barlow was born in England, Duckenfield near Manchester, on 26 April 1846. He was the first of a 5-children family, and they emigrated to the US when he was only 2 years old. He fought in the Civil War as member of the 14th Infantry Regiment, and he was dismissed from service as a sergeant of Company D. The 14th served as part of the Potomac Army. Barlow was a natural-born mechanic. He started working for Charles Parker's company in Meridian. It was one of the largest metalware companies in Connecticut. Later he started working for Winchester, and his earliest patents are associated with this period. When Winchester stopped producing reloading tools in 1884, he decided to establish his own venture called the Ideal Manufacturing Company. The company was started in New Haven, Connecticut, where they lived with his wife Ida. Unfortunately, Ida died at the age of only 34 years at 1887, leaving 3 children for the father, 3 little girls. Barlow submitted 3 individual patents for his hand tool between 1883 and 1884. Interestingly, his tools are marked with the 11th February 1884 date, but actually none of these patents were issued in that specific date. These tools were first chambered for the most important Winchester rifle calibers like the 44-40, like the 38-40 or the 32-20. They had the integral mold, which means that you could also make your bullets in the field if you had lead, of course, and it had a fixed non-adjustable chamber, meaning that it could only be used for one type of bullet and it could only produce one length of cartridge. But it was a very handy little tool because you could perform all the necessary actions that were needed to reload your cartridges in the field without resizing the case. The success of the Winchester caliber tools led to the rapid growth of the business, meaning that in a few years he was already offering tools for the Marlin, Smith & Wesson and Colt cartridges as well. Barlow's venture was a knowledge-based company because in 1891 he was the very first one to publish a reloading guide. This was titled The Ideal Handbook of Useful Information for Shooters. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the mother and father of all reloading guides that we have access today. He lived an active life. In 1910 he decided to sell the company, so he sold it to Marlin first. Later, in the 1920s, it was bought by Lyman, who is still owning the brand. He died in 1912 in Venice, Italy, and his body is probably still in Venice in the San Michele cemetery. But he also has a grave in New Haven, in the Evergreen Cemetery, so we don't exactly know where his body is now, so one of his graves is surely a cenotaph. The small caliber breech-loading rifles of the second half of the 19th century were not designed for short-range shooting. In fact, the Buffington rear sight was intended to allow the shooter to reach distances even above 1,000 yards. So let's try now what the original bullet does at 300 yards. Now this rifle is a very accurate little beast. Unfortunately, I was not able to find a picture of him, so if you have any image, any old photograph, then please share it in the comment section. I'm really curious to see how he actually looked, because he's one of our unknown heroes, because he had a great part in that we can still use these old guns today for shooting, and we have to be very grateful for these guys for that. So ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you enjoyed this little time travel again. If you like what I do, then please subscribe, comment, share and like. This will help to grow the channel. Until next time, stay cool and keep your powder dry.